from with the Backwoodsman Institute. In this video right here, it's part of our Budget Hunter series. We're going to be talking about calls. Are they necessary? And if you want to buy calls, what type of calls should you buy? On the topic of are calls necessary, let's take deer hunting for instance. Is it necessary to have a call or to use calls to harvest deer? No, it's not necessary at all. In fact, if you're a beginner hunter or beginning to learn how to call and you don't fully understand how the calls work or how to make calls, you can actually do more harm than good, and it can actually work against you and bringing the game towards you. So in that case, and if it's totally not in your budget to get a call, then you don't need one. It's not necessary. Let's say you can get a call. What call should you get? Still on the topic of deer. Right here we got some deer calls. I got a doe bleat can and I got a grunt call. All right. This grunt call is a grunt call and it actually has a snort wheeze attachment on there as well. But this by itself is just a grunt call. And one thing, it's huge and bulky. If I put this on and I don't get it tucked in my shirt and I'm drawing my bow back and it catches my string, it's going to be all over the place. And pretty soon, you know, it's crazy how these things keep getting bigger and bigger. Pretty soon we're going to be wearing traffic cones making deer grunts out in the woods. So on that, you got to think multi-use, especially if you're on a budget. Now, multi-use, you still have to stay kind of in the species that you're going after. I can't buy a deer call and expect to use it when I'm turkey hunting. That doesn't happen. But multi-use, this right here is a flex tone. It's a 4-in-1. I got a grunt call, I got a fawn bleat, doe bleat, and a young butt. Just by how I depress this reed in this flex tone shell right here. Same thing with this Primos. This is a hardwoods grunter. I can take this off. This actually has an O-ring that I can slide. I'll get it closer. All right, here's a close-up of it. I walked over to the camera, but just by sliding this O-ring around, it's got different notches for doe bleats, grunts, big mature grunts, and all that. So these are excellent multi-use deer calls because one, you're only buying one thing, but you're getting the benefits of a grunt, a doe bleat, a fawn bleat, maybe some other stuff like that. All right, let's take a little time to explain some of these buttons up here on this deer call. If I'm just using a grunt and I make it a deep grunt, it can be intimidating to does. It can be, especially if they're not in heat, it can be intimidating to less mature bucks in the area. Not necessarily young bucks, but less mature bucks. By that I mean, let's say we got a 5.5-year-old boss hog buck running around the property that you hunt. And let's say there's deer 1 year below him that are shooters, decent shooters. If they know that that's his area and they're kind of skirting around and they hear that big massive grunt, they're like, oh no, I got busted. And then they're not going to come in. So there just went your chance on that shooter buck. It wasn't the boss hog, even though everyone wants to get that big boy running around, but there's some shooters that you can get to come in by using a young buck grunt. What that gives them is the chance, hey, I'm more mature than this buck right here, and you're playing a mind game with him. So if he's in the area, big boy's not around, and I'm going to go get him off of the doe that he might be trailing, or I'm going to go see what's up. So that's when I use a young buck. Here's the buck grunt, and then I'm going to change to the young buck to show you the difference. Young buck. Alright, kind of sounds like a doe bleat, but the doe bleat is a little more. Alright, it's a little more, I don't know how you would explain it, a little higher pitched, I guess. And then we got fawn bleats on here as well. And with a fawn, it just sounds like, Mom, Mom, constantly. That's what they're doing. I like to use fawn bleats. I like to use fawn in distress for coyote hunting, and I like to use it for early archery season, especially if I want to get a doe in the freezer or fill a doe tag, because what it does is it messes with their maternal instincts. Even though it might not be their fawn, if it's in distress, that doe is going to come in and see what's up. So that's what I use. I actually made a video on it, and I'll show you how to use fawn in distress calls to bring in fawns during early archery season here in southern Indiana. It'll work anywhere. It'll work even throughout the hunting season because they still have that maternal instinct, but early season when the fawns are the youngest and more susceptible to to predation. So that's what I use in early archery season right there. This one, just the Grunt Call, and this was I'm telling you, this is way more expensive than just this. This will run you about 10 bucks for either of these, 10 to 12 bucks. This was about 20 bucks. For some reason, and don't feel bad, I got suckered into it too, but there's just so much more versatility with a call that has multiple uses, just by an O-ring or depressing the reed. So this, by all means, is the best option for the budget hunter. Even the hunter just starting out, you can buy one call and already be calling in the woods. Now, same thing when we're talking coyotes, okay? Now, these open reed coyote calls, this is a Primos little dog. They're a little harder to learn how to use. This is just a regular rabbit in distress. All right, but this, I can do a rabbit in distress by just how my teeth or my top lip, however I put it on this reed, I can get all different types of calls. I can get my rabbit in distress. I can get that, or I can get a howl. Just by moving on this reed. So this is multi-use as well. This isn't a bad call for beginners, but for a budget, I would go with something that I can get multi-use out of, even if I don't fully understand how to use an open reed call. Get one that comes with a DVD, all right? You might spend a little more money on an open reed call, but it's got multi-uses, like I said before. It'll show you how to use it on the DVD or the CD or whatever, and practice with it before you get in the woods. You're better off going out in the woods without a call than going with a call and messing up, because one, you're going to educate the game you're after, and they're going to be on high alert, and next time they hear that noise, they're going to think twice about going into it, especially coyotes. Coyotes are extremely smart. So once again, multi-use for all your calls right here. All right, the easiest multi-use call for a hunter to find out there is with the turkey calls, because either slate calls, box calls, mouth calls, it's how you use these calls to make all these different noises. Kind of just like how an open reed is. You just work it a little different and you get a different output of sound. With a slate call, you can do yelps, you can do purrs, cuts. Alright, same thing with a box call. You can do your yelp, you can do your purrs just by dragging it softly across there. Kind of do a little kick at the end. Alright. Now, I like to purr a lot better sounding from a slate call. I'm not particularly good with purring from a box call, but what I use my box call for is if it's really windy, I don't know if you can tell or not, but it was a lot louder. It projects that sound a lot better. So I can get the attention of a tom by yelping. If he's really far away, I'll get him to gobble off of that. Then I know I'll sneak in, work a little closer with my slate call. Now there's going to be some species of call or game that you're not going to be able to get multi-use out of their call. But like I just showed you, it's how you use the call, the buck grunt, to do the tending grunt, to do the challenge grunt, to just do the grunt through the woods or whatever. Same thing, this is a crow call, all right? There's only one, I'm going to get one sound out of this. Alright, now let's say I want to just kind of twirl my tongue a little bit, roll my tongue, kind of make it seem like they're fighting. If I had two different types of crow calls, different pitches, then I could use this one, and kind of throw in some distress in there. Kind of sounds something like this, but just with one call, so it's not going to be the exact same as if I was crow hunting. I just showed you, I hope I either helped you to select a call or convinced you that maybe you need some more practice before you take a call out in the woods, and maybe you thought it was necessary to call in game. It's not necessary. You can set up on an ambush point on a trail or something, or set up on the edge of a hay field or a cornfield trying to shoot coyotes, all right? Calling is something you can build off of after you get time in the woods and spend it hunting. So it's not a necessity, and always think multi-use when you're on a budget. Don't get suckered into all the advertisements. Multi-use, they'll hardly ever advertise they're 5-in-1, they're 4-in-1 deer calls. They'll just be on the shelves. These are going to be their money makers, so these are the ones they want to put out there for the public to buy. But it's not in the best interest of the budget hunter. That doesn't mean these are bad calls. They'll work just fine. But for the budget hunter, multi-use is the key. Hope you guys liked the video. Catch you in a bit.